So in this video, I want to talk to you about how to actually impress your doctoral supervisor or advisor. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an Associate Professor of Innovation, Strategy, and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. So you might be watching this video because you're really curious about impressing your PhD supervisor, but I want to say this before I get into any of these tips and talk to you about impressing your PhD supervisor. If you feel that you have to impress your PhD supervisor, you've already lost. You should never ever feel that you have to impress anybody, and you should be just being yourself. If you have that feeling that you strongly want to impress somebody else in your life and they're putting a lot of pressure on you to impress them, it's probably not the relationship you want to be in. There's really no reason for you to feel that you have to impress anybody. And I know that's really uncomfortable for me to say, but you really should not be in a moment where you feel uncomfortable in a situation where you feel like you have to impress somebody. As soon as you feel like that, it is going to be a journey. So I want you to get used to not feeling like you have to impress anybody and removing that barrier that you feel with your PhD supervisor. And if you're working with somebody that constantly puts up that barrier where you feel like you are not good enough, you can never get there, I'd advise you to actually look for another advisor or another supervisor, because it's not a healthy relationship in any sort of way. You should be good enough. You should be able to do whatever you need to do, and that should be good enough. And the advisor works with you and such to develop you instead of making you feel like you're bad or that you don't have enough, you don't have what it takes, but rather is going to work with you and make you feel good about yourself. So I would highly advise you to think about that at that moment. However, if you need to impress your PhD supervisor, you still want to do it, this is just really good protocol of dealing with these kind of meetings and stuff like that anyway. So the first thing I would do is take notes during the meeting. I think that's going to be very helpful for you, and and really it's helpful for everybody. This is one thing that I find kind of odd that people, sometimes I'm in meetings where I never take notes, and those are the ones that I'm like, well, I don't really need to be actively involved. But if you are working on something on a project, then you probably should be taking notes. So bring your laptop or bring a notepad, that sort of moleskin pad, and actually take notes during it. And that's going to help out a lot because you're going to forget things. And it's really developmental when you're working with your advisor, that's somebody that truly cares. The other thing that I think is going to be really important is focusing on completing the work that was discussed previously and just kind of follow up on that particular thing. So the way that it should be done is that you are sort of executing on the work that you discussed, and you just execute and you go back and you do it. And sometimes you run into problems. Yeah, that's advisable. But just executing on that work and getting it done before you go to the next thing, that's going to be very helpful. And so just keep getting that in mind where you are moving forward. Now, the other thing that you can do is try to recover from feedback and keep moving forward. Now, again, this depends on the sort of supervisor style or the advisor style. If you have somebody that is going to cut you down and give you a lot of negative feedback where you feel bad about yourself and you can't do it, that is probably a bad situation, and I would highly advise you to get out of that. But if you have an advisor where you get feedback and it's kind of developmental to work on something, to keep pushing forward, that's going to be very helpful for you. And so you got to absorb a little bit of that feedback, and not absorb the negativity on it, and keep moving forward with that thing. So another thing that you have to realize, and this takes a long time to get used to, and I still don't get used to it, but the idea itself is not a reflection of who you are. So if you're beating up the idea, or the idea is not perfect, or it's just not good, it's not there yet, don't take offense to that. It's not the person that you're working with is not beating up you, they're beating up the idea. And so removing yourself from the idea is it's impossible. It's very hard. But you do feel better when you do that, when you remove it and you realize that this is just the idea that you're working on. And a lot of that is really dependent on the style that they are giving you feedback with. Um, if the feedback is sort of positive, sort of constructive, then that helps in terms of how you deal with it. Another thing is to keep persisting no matter how bad the situation actually gets with your research. So if it feels like it's going to fall apart, you're probably in the right spot. With research, it always feels like it's going to fall apart and it doesn't really quite work, but then you just keep persisting through it. So a good supervisor, a good advisor is going to actually build you up and say, no, keep going. This is great. You're in the right spot. You can do this, and have that sort of mentality where you push through it. That's going to get you to the other side, and that's going to be very helpful for you. Now, the last thing, and this is kind of like, impressing your advisor or supervisor, 301. So it's actually, more advanced, because it takes a long time to figure this out, is to actually come up with your own innovative ideas when you can. So come up with be brave enough that you can come up with your own ideas and be insightful. And some people really can't get there, but that's where you are really becoming a scholar, and things really change when you have innovative ideas and you can stand up for yourself and really think about those particular things. So hopefully this helps out in terms of impressing your PhD supervisor. Again, you should never feel like you have to impress them. That is not a healthy relationship at all. It's like a marriage, right? It's not healthy. You should want to impress them, but you shouldn't have to feel obligated to impress somebody else. So with that, give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.